Hello, welcome to the Sovereign Magazine Show. I'm Nicole George, your host today. Sovereign Magazine Show is a transformational experience where conscious conversations meet embodied wisdom. Each episode invites visionary healers, thought leaders, and change makers to share their journeys of awakening, offering listeners practical tools and soul-stirring insights to reclaim their inner authority. Today, we welcome back Ebonie Allard, and I am going to let her introduce herself.
Hi. So I'm Ebonie Allard. I'm an author, an artist, a fulfillment coach, and soul contract guide. And it is my work in the world to help culture makers, experienced culture makers, the people who are the glue in the workplace, in the home. Those are the culture makers, the ones that care about art and how things feel. And my work in the world is to help culture makers to become full of themselves and to express that fullness and to really enjoy their incarnation experience and to enjoy their life before it's too late. Because quite often, those of us who are find ourselves in those roles tend to overgive and overextend and forget about ourselves. And we are the nourishment and the enrichment of this world. And in order to really do that, it needs to come from overflow. So we really need to understand just how magical we really are and learn what we can trust and what we can tune out in a world that is getting louder and busier and more and more and more. It's really, really important work to be able to discern what is a distraction and what is true enrichment.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And if you missed and you don't have the foundations of what we're talking about today, go back to episode one because we talk about what are kismet codes, what's human design, what are gene keys, what are soul contracts, all of that. So definitely go back to episode one if you're really confused about what we're about to talk about. So today we're going to be talking about embodying your type and understanding your aura. So what does that mean?
Okay, so we're talking human design, and human design is a synthesis of other modalities. So we talked a little bit about that before. And one of the things I said in the last episode was that traditionally there are four types, but I am going to tell you about five types, and they each have their own strategy and their own signature. And what you will hear quite often is strategy and authority. So, strategy is to do with the type and how that type's aura is designed to interact with the world and with each other. And part of that is knowing how to make decisions, knowing how to author your own life, how to be the authority in your own life. And none of our decisions, for nobody ever, no authority was ever supposed to come from our mind, from our head brain. So, one of the things I should add in my really long list of qualifications and experience and modalities is MBIT. MBIT stands for Multiple Brain Integration Technique. And MBIT is a modality that is backed up by massive amount of science that talks to our multiple brains, our multiple intelligences. And I have done the master coach level of MBIT more than once. I did it the first time before I was diagnosed with as neurodivergent with autism and ADHD. And then I did it again afterwards because I wanted to listen to it and do the whole qualification with a different lens. And so at master coach level with MBIT, there are five brains. You have your head brain, your heart brain, your gut brain, which are the first three. And then you have your pelvic brain and your autonomic nervous system. And these intelligences correlate in some ways to the centers in human design. And the centers come from the chakras. And originally there were seven chakras. And as we evolved, and when one of the types, the projectors, were born, and they came into being, the solar plexus split into the solar plexus and the spleen. and the heart split into the G center and the will center. And so that is why there are 9 centers in human design and 7 chakras. And why am I telling you this? Because it is one of those intelligences that you have defined, and there is a particular order in which we look to definition to see what your authority is. So we start with, if you have your sacral defined, then, and I'm going to come back to that. But so there are 7 authorities, 12 profiles. This also is something we'll look at later, 9 centers and 64 gates. And so we are starting at the beginning because the broad brushstroke is type. But type is defined by which gates you have, which defines which centers are defined, and which centers are defined determines which type you are. Does that make sense to you?
It
Right,
makes
because no one
complete
normally
sense.
teaches that. They're just like, what type am I? It's like, well, it can really depend, and not all types are the same because it will depend again on whether those, last time we talked about conscious and unconscious. So if the definition in your center is all conscious, your experience of that is going to be different than if they're all unconscious. And so there's all of these different little layers, which means you can't just say to somebody, oh, what am I? And then go, oh, I'm that. You have to embody it. You have to experiment with it. You have to feel it in yourself. And in your type, in understanding your type and experimenting with your type, you're understanding how you were designed to interact with life. And the 5 types describe a person's natural state of being and how their energy is designed to interact with the world. And your type shows you how to live in a way that is empowering, fulfilling, dynamic, successful, and exciting. And so when people tell me, I had a reading with someone and they said I'm a projector, therefore I can't, no. Was that empowering? No. Therefore, they didn't give you the correct information, because type and all the information from this is designed to show you how to live in a way that is empowering and fulfilling for you. Okay. So each type comes with a strategy. And that strategy talks to our, in human design, they call it, when you're not working your strategy, you're in your not self. Have you heard of not self before? Okay. So when you're operating from your strategy or with the correct strategy, you are in your true self. I call it your true self. You've got true self and not self. Now, your true self, and where your wisdom is and where your energy is, where your power is in the centers that are defined. So your undefined centers, when you're being led by them, you're being led by something that is open and porous and a portal that can be manipulated and controlled, and is essentially you're being led from your insecurities and your weaknesses. So most of us don't have a head or a root defined, not all of us. And then so we're like making these decisions based on our not self. So this is why it's important to understand type, strategy, and authority. They all come together because how you're designed to make decisions is based on who you are, what you're made of. And the more that you can really go, oh, yeah, this is how it feels to be me, to be lit up, to be successful, or to be peaceful, or to be delighted, or to be energized. We were all designed to have energy, to be full of life. But it was different for each person. So we're going to go into the different types, and we're going to start with the
I'm going to pause
manifestor.
you. I'm going to pause you only because I know there's going to be people watching going, I don't know what type I am, so this doesn't mean anything to me. So if
Yeah.
you go to ebonieallard.com/get chart, or that will be in the show notes. Definitely, it's free. You can get your
Yeah.
chart, and Ebonie is spelled EBONIEALLARD.com/get dash chart. Okay, now proceed.
Thanks. So the first piece of information that you're going to get when you get your chart, when you see it, is your type. And I'm going to share. So this is the first type is the manifestor. Now, manifestors are also change makers, trailblazers, visionaries. And we're going to skip through all of this piece and go, okay, what do we want to know about? Oh, I'm going to try and make it bigger. What do we want to know about manifestors? So the main thing is, if you're a manifestor type, your strategy is to initiate and to inform, and you have this theme, this signature theme of peace when you're in your true self, and anger when you're in your not self. And this means that a lot of manifestors have been told to not be angry, not share, not express. And that is very detrimental for everybody, but particularly for manifestors, because it means that they are not listening to their authority, and they're not, and they are designed because they have a motor center connected to a throat, and they're born to lead, to communicate, to initiate and inform, right? So they get this sense of, now, I need to go now, I need to move. They get what's called an urge. And that urge, if they are not informing, is probably just going to annoy everyone. But if they have got this urge and they inform, they say, I'm going this way, then they become like a train going to a particular destination, and that everybody who's like, oh my God, I want to go there, can get on the train and get on board. And everyone who doesn't want to go there can get out of the way so that the train can close the doors and go. And when they are not in their urged place, then they're designed to rest. Okay. So your superpower comes from your throat if you're a manifester. And if you're looking at all this information, you're like, oh, I want to know this. You can know more, but we've got 4 more to get through in a short amount of time. So the next type is the generator. And the generators are also known as alchemists, builders. And this is all about your life force energy. These are people who have a defined sacral and are here to generate and to create and to live in a way that lights themselves up and lights other people up. And their theme is mastery, and you're here to master over and over, to activate that sacral aha or and like really lean in and do the things that make you feel lit up and excited. They have an enveloping aura. So manifestors have an aura that kind of is repellent, and it goes straight out, and people hear the word repellent and they're like, ah, but the whole point is it's like it's going somewhere. It's very directional, and then it will magnetize people to it and repel. Generators auras are enveloping, and what that means is that when a generator is in a good mood, when they are lit up, when they feel glittery and shiny, everyone else around them does too. And it's like a warm hug. When a generator is feeling its not self theme, which should be at the top here, but clearly isn't, which is frustration. So, then they feel frustration, and everybody else around them knows it too, because it's still an enveloping aura. And you might find yourself saying, I'm so frustrated, or this is so frustrating, but you might also find people around you saying, you're so frustrating. Because it's a signature theme and it's in the aura, and your aura is enveloping. And so you can take yourself away, right? Or move your sacral, because when we move our energy, we move our emotion. Maybe you also need to express it, but maybe you need to create something, maybe you need to rest. There is a way of moving this energy so that you can come back into alignment. And the generator experience is something called the plateau. So you're not always supposed to be in your true self. There are reasons for being in our not self. The not self is the seed so that something else can be bloomed, right? Then we have the manifesting generator. So the manifesting generator is a generator type. And depending on their design, they can be a pure manifesting generator. There's one particular channel that is a pure manifesting generator, and that is equal parts manifesting generator. Now, what I mean by that is it's that sacral that makes them a generator. and the enveloping aura, but then they also have, because to be a manifesting generator, you have a defined sacral and a motorized throat. So the motorized throat is what makes you a manifester, the defined sacral is what makes you a generator. And so the manifesting generator has got elements of both of these, right? It's got this but they can skip steps. They're a bit impatient. They do lots of different things at once, and they do that thing that the internet does, where it goes really fast and squiggles, and then they have to kind of stop, and you're like, "What did you say?" Oh, it doesn't matter, but it does matter because they've got to like have a little taste, try it out, and then go, "Nah, not for me," or yes. So they are the hummingbirds, the butterflies, the multi-passionates, and the time benders because their relationship with time is very, very interesting. And their not self theme is also frustration, but I really see this one as annoyance or irritation. And it can be impatience, actually, is probably the best way. You're probably not in your true self as a Manigen if you're feeling impatient. And everyone talks about how fast Manigens go. In order to know what's really correct, they need to slow down. They are designed to be fun and sparkly and lit up, and the embodiment of flow, but flow isn't jerkiness, right? Yeah. So this is a really, really interesting thing for this aura. So it is enveloping, it acts just like a generator. And in the traditional human design, this generators and manigens are the same type. But for me, there is a quality that's very slightly different. And I think it's important to talk to. Then we have our beautiful projectors. Now, what I often say, and actually sometimes I skip over projectors and come back to them and go to reflectors because it's much easier to see. So I'm going to, with a reflector, to be a reflector, you have no defined centers. So to be a manifester, throat is defined and a motor defined, and there's a channel between. To be a generator, your sacral is defined. To be a manifesting generator, your sacral is defined and you've got a motorized throat. To be a reflector, you have no defined centers. And the reflectors are the wise sages, the reflection, the truth tellers, and they can either be mirrors or sponges. It's really important for reflector health to learn how to squeeze themselves out of everybody else's stuff. Now, the reason they become wise is because they've got a sampling aura. It samples everything, it collects wisdom, but it can be like a soggy sponge if it hasn't been wringed out. It's really, really important for the reflector to work with, oh, I'm feeling really disappointed. And disappointment can feel like heaviness, can feel like just being very stagnant because you're full of all this energy. And so, if you can rinse out or drain or rest or let your centers all be cleared, then you can be surprised and delighted by life. Now, traditionally, the signature is surprise. I call it delighted because that's what it really feels like. It's like awe. It's like, ah, ah, ah. And again, there's this theory because they don't have definition that reflectors are like slow or energyless. They're not. All of those empty centers are amplifying because when we have a defined center, we have a signature way of being. And when we have an open or an undefined center, we are an amplifier. So reflectors are amplifiers. So they can have a lot of energy, but because they don't have that definition, they don't know when enough is enough. So they often need to rest in order to come back to their true selves. And then we have the projectors. Now, why do I do them last? Because the projectors are everybody else. And so, this other misconception that I see with people and human design is believing that all projectors are designed the same. They're really not, because it really depends on which centers you have defined as to what you are a guide or a seer or the power or presence of God of and for. Now, the projector's aura is like a bird. It can see everything, and it's like a lighthouse or a projector. And the strategy of needing to be recognized and then wait, like being asked or invited or feeling this sense of invitation to be the expert, to be the guide or the seer, starts with you. So as a projector, the first person who has to recognize you, the first person who has to be like, I'm a guide and a seer of this, is you. And when you really understand what you are a guide of, what you are here to curate, then you can put that out in the world, project it out into the world, and put up what I like to call your projector bat signal. When you go like, I'm here for this, and you put your signal up, and then everyone can ask for you and be like, oh, I need one like that. And it makes life much, much easier. So Projector's theme is bitterness and success. And when you are invited and when people value you, when they recognize you, you can be very, very successful because you're an expert, because you are a seer and a guide. You know a lot about these things. You don't have sacral definition. So you're not here to create, you're here to recycle, reuse, revolve, evolve, purate. We've got everything we need in the planet. But what we need is less waste. What we need is more efficiency. And so the projectors are here to do that. And they are incredibly efficient and really, really good at knowing their area, but often brought up in a world that doesn't value them or didn't recognize them. And so there is this journey that the projector needs to go on to recognize itself, because it can't see itself because of the projection field. And so projector needs to be told what they're amazing at, needs to be told, this is what I see in you. And when they do, they're like, I'm that. Yes, I'm that. And then they can be it. And so that is a kind of overview of the different auras and how they all work.
Whew, that's a lot to take in. And I know people in all different areas, which I just met my first reflector, and I thought I'd never meet one in my whole life. So, for anybody who knows, the reflectors are the most rare. And she was absolutely amazing and like blown away by this whole thing. And she's older in life, she's in her 60s. And when I told her, she's like, my whole life makes more sense now. And anyway, so I like that I know one of each of the types, and like your explanation of them is spot on, spot on. And so it's very helpful for me when I know what type somebody is in, because I feel like I show up more compassionately for
Mm.
them when I know what type they are. Not that I'm going to change who I am, but how they're responding to me is a better, um, I can receive them differently. For example, I know projectors tend to not have as much energy as generators. So to expect a generator and a projector to have the exact same amount of energy, that might be a little challenging sometimes, right? And to expect a manifestor and a generator to have the same throat chakra ability to be able to speak, that might not be the greatest assumption either. But like you said, in all of the details, that's where it's important to know their uniqueness, because maybe perhaps they are, right? Because you said when your throat is undefined or open, like it's not colored on the chart, that you're open to absorbing that person's energy or other things around you, and it's not as defined, right? And so because my throat chakra is not opened, I might absorb some techniques from you that I might use later, right?
Yeah, so it's samples, right? So two things. I have more reflectors in my world than nearly anyone else I know, because my design is a manifesting generator, but my mind is a reflector and my body is a manifestor, and they together make me a manifesting generator. And that matters, right? Those little details matter. And so for me, when people use this very generic information for human design, it's the same as people using AI. It irritates me because it's not true, right? But it's a simplification of something. And none of you are simple. You are all beautiful treasures and absolute. masterpieces, works of art. And it's those little pieces, one, like, yes, on a broad brushstroke level, we can be more compassionate with each other, we can understand each other, we can be more fascinated with each other, we can learn about each other. And this is really, really cool. And also, we don't know, and we can work and have a conversation with someone to find them. When we have a defined center, we are a beacon of that energy. We have a particular way that we express that energy. When we have it undefined, and that means there are gates lit up but not a channel, so that make right, then we experience it in all the different people around us, but we've still got tiny taste of our own way, right? Because it's undefined. When it's open, open means no gates defined. That means we sample every single different way that you can possibly do that thing. And we can either be deeply in the insecurity of like, I don't have a way that I do this. Right. So if you had an open throat, I don't have a way that I speak. I don't have like a voice that's really clearly me. But you could be the most expert speaker in the room because you can have experienced and sampled every single way and then alchemize that to be an expert in it. I have an open G center, which means I have a wound of not belonging everywhere and feeling like I don't belong anywhere, but I'm also a chameleon and I fit in everywhere. So this is why I want people to get really interested in this stuff and take it a bit further and come on this journey with us, because it's not that simple, and it gets to be really a journey of self-love and discovery, and you get to fall in love with every human you've ever met because we're all so fascinating.
Yeah. And this is why I love this stuff, because for me, learning more about myself, of course, but also learning about others, it just lights me up so much. And the more nuanced it gets, the better it is for me, because that means, like you said, we're all unique, we're all masterpieces. And I love when we all have differences. You and I are completely different, but we just come together so beautifully because I think we respect each other and we respect our differences.
And because when people are different, they make a team. And that is where the world is going. We're going, we've lived through an era of I must own my own house, I must do my own thing, I must own my own money, right? We're moving into a place where we operate as a community, and each individual within that community is really important because they have specific qualities and skills. So yeah, that's I can't remember what we're doing next time. You can tell me if you remember, but we will move on.
Yes. We are going to be embodying your profile and understanding your conscious and unconscious personality. And so, if you haven't already, as you can see, you definitely need to be liked, sharing, commenting, subscribing to all of this. All of Ebonie's details will be in the show notes. If you have questions for her, she's in our community, community.sovereign-magazine.com. She has a monthly call that you can come on for free. And if you missed the link at the beginning to receive any of the information she has on her website for free, it'll definitely be in the show notes. So definitely stay tuned for episode 3, where we're going to be talking about your profile and understanding conscious and unconscious personality. Thank you so much for your wisdom today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.